So my original goal for this video was to show you guys that I had started getting into digital art, and after going a few rounds of like practicing, you can see that playing in the background, I decided, you know what, I could probably make this into a sort of artist evolution and show you different drawings that I did back in the past when I first started drawing. And then of course I went into my old digital files to find all the stuff that I was actually honestly proud to show other people online. And then I got to cutting them together into a slideshow to put in the bottom right corner of this screen. And as I'm sitting here watching the playback, I see that I've only succeeded in making myself feel bad because, oh god, if an artist's evolution refers to their ability to change how they draw over time with multiple different generations of their drawings, their actual drawings serving as each generation. Thing is, like most people who actually enjoy drawing, you think you draw more than you actually do. And I kind of found that that was the exact case for me, is that I had less drawings than I thought I had. And I basically scrolled through and looked at each and every one of my drawings from the past like 5 or 6 years I actually started drawing. And I just realized I could have drawn a lot more and been a lot farther along in my skill than I actually was. And like that's being emphasized and highlighted now more so than ever because I'm trying to break into a new medium. Before, I'd largely done like pencil and paper artwork. Occasionally I'd break away into like sculptures or paintings or even just like 3D renderings, but those were only as a way to sort of like bounce off my standard of like pencil, paper, pen, marker, and that sort of process. That was what I was most comfortable in. There's a bit of a problem when I say most comfortable in doing. People talk about a style, as in a person's way of expressing themselves. However, there's kind of a secondary thing that people don't really talk about with that a style can also refer to an artist's preferred method of rendering an image to the way that makes them satisfied. And that's not really a concrete definition, but it's kind of the way that I tend to think. The style, I'm using in air quotes, that I've sort of settled in most of my pencil paper drawings are sort of simplified, abstract exaggerations of what the world actually looks like. They're not photorealistic, is what I'm trying to say, and I've sort of shied away from photorealism in any sort of medium. The reason for that being is, honestly, I couldn't tell you. It might be in part due because I enjoyed cartoons and anime and animations growing up, and so my idea of what I should draw largely came from that. And part of it could be that my actual illustration education was largely self-taught. I had no actual formal education in drawing and the fine arts outside of the next to mandatory classes that I needed to actually pass. And not to knock those classes, they're good and all, but they don't really go in depth as much as you actually want. And also, like, the learning environment is not 100% conducive to actually learn anything sometimes. At least not for the way that I actually had to learn anything. But, you know, I probably shouldn't be saying it like that makes it seem like I'm blaming other people for my own shortcomings, and that is not really a healthy habit. So, there was a point in high school where I was drawing and creating things a lot more than I have been lately. And I've been trying to think back as to what that spark actually was. Like, I've noticed that I've slowed down. What was it? It was a hustle and bustle of high school monotony that I tried to fantasize away from, where I tried to something like that. Now that I'm out of high school and things have sort of slowed down, I've started going to work and back. Well, not now with the current world predicament, but I don't know, I'll think about it more in my off time. Going back to what I was saying before about artistic style, and mine being a very simplified one, you could probably notice that in a lot of my drawings, they're very messy. The lines are very squiggly. Some of them are very rapid and dashed. Some of them are just, well, what can I say? It's a very sloppy style of actually rendering. You can actually see some of the forelines and the structure work shining through them. And I guess that was sort of my way of trying to add depth to the drawing that wasn't actually there, being in a simplistic style. The brain has a funny little thing when it sees an extraordinary amount of detail, is that it tends to simplify things. Maybe that was me, and maybe in most of the drawings that I made, it was sort of a method of playing into that idea that I may not be drawing something hyper-realistic, but I can draw something that is visually stimulating and striking, then maybe I don't need to be photorealistic. And I probably ran with that idea all throughout my drawings. That probably has also contributed to my lack of, we'll say, rendering when it comes to digital art, because in digital art, a sloppy art style can really does not translate 100%. You can see in the background there, as soon as I actually try to simplify the drawing and just box out the larger line work and sort of things, to actually make it look halfway decent, I lose a lot of the depth of my drawing. I don't know. This entire rambling monologue thing was completely unprompted and unscripted, and a lot of it is just me saying words and hoping that I make sense to the people listening, when realistically I'm not. I am not a wordsmith by any means. I wrote a lot of stories in high school, I was in a creative writing club, but that doesn't mean I was any good. Come to the end now, and whether or not you understood a word of what I said here, I just want to thank you for actually taking the time out of your day to just sort of sit down and have a nice moment with me. Whether it was a good moment or not, whether it was annoying, whether it was interesting, intriguing, or whether it was boring, I appreciate you stopping by. I really do. It's a weird time in history where we are, and sometimes you just need to talk about something that's not relevant, not political, just something isolated and contained. We just sort of ramble on with no actual sense of where you're going, and just kind of hope you reach somewhere pleasant, or someplace mediocre. I suppose that's all we can do in times like these. Anyway, I'm probably gonna post an actual legitimate slideshow of all the drawings that I had previously done. That'll probably be the next video on this channel, just because I have the files, I have the means to make an actual slideshow. So you can probably look forward to that as the next video coming out. The only real problem is finding actual music to put behind it that is fitting. I don't know, maybe the YouTube audio library has something. I'm not going to do a voiceover for it, mostly because, well, obviously based on the previous 10 minutes, I cannot give a complete thought to save my life. If you could see the raw audio of this track, it's just riddled with nothing but pauses, and I'm gonna be very hard pressed to actually try and stitch this together in a way that actually fits the video. I mean, honestly, I should probably just cut the voiceover out. Realistically, it adds nothing, and I don't know, this was a very nothing video. And I realize that it sort of undercuts the actual magnitude of a video that features 7 years of artistic progression. But what can you honestly say to that? I'm average. My actual skill, I'm no better than the average person. And I'm okay with that.